Welcome back. In a major act of terror in Kenya's capital Nairobi, an Al-Qaeda-inspired group held a busy mall under siege for 4 days, killed 60 people and injured many others. But more importantly, raised questions about their operations and their act, especially so as it comes very close on the heels of a statement allegedly made by Al-Qaeda's chief Ayman al-Zawahiri, where he has instructed Al-Qaeda's followers not to kill innocents, women and children.
Even as the death toll of this horrific attack in Nairobi's Westgate Mall is still being ascertained, the Somalian Al-Qaeda affiliate group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility and called the cold-blooded murder of dozens of innocent civilians an act of justice. In what was Kenya's worst terrorist attack since the bombing of the US Embassy in 1998, nearly 70 people were killed and 175 injured in a bloody 4-day siege.
They shall not get away with their despicable.
We shall not relent on the war on terror. We will continue that fight, and we urge all people of goodwill throughout the world to join us.
Even as global leaders have come together in support of Kenya, an Interpol global warrant has been issued against the infamous White Widow, Samantha Lewithwaite, who is said to be behind the attack. She is the wife of 2005 London bomber Jermaine Lindsay.
This is the threat of Al-Shabaab to the region and to the world at large. We send our condolences to the Kenyan government and the Kenyan people, and I'm going to visit Kenya to share with the grievances with the Kenyan people.
We stand with them against this terrible outrage that's occurred. We will provide them with whatever law enforcement support that is necessary.
For India, it is almost like a grim reminder of the 26/11 Mumbai attacks of 2008. Similarities are uncanny. In Nairobi, as in Mumbai, the target was an upscale area. More than 10 terrorists entered the mall in Nairobi from multiple entries, opened fire and took shoppers as hostages. Very similar to the 10 Pakistani terrorists who entered a hotel and laid siege for days till the terrorists in both cases were neutered. And not to forget that Kenya does have a huge Indian population, resulting in many Indians being amongst the victims. 6 Indians, including 3 from Gujarat, were killed, and nearly 20 children from Gujarati families were reported missing after the siege.
The Nairobi Mall under attack itself was built by a Kutchi construction firm, and roughly half the business in it held by Gujaratis. It's only natural that after Kenyan nationals, maximum loss of life has been suffered by the Indian state.
The carnage in Nairobi once again showed the enduring ability of Al-Qaeda and its affiliates to wreak terror. The question is the Al-Qaeda leadership itself in control of its affiliates? When claiming responsibility, Al-Shabaab said the attack was retribution for the Kenyan military's operations in Somalia. But the indiscriminate killing of innocent civilians, including women and children, defies the latest set of guidelines issued by the Al-Qaeda. Just last week, Al-Qaeda chief Ayman al-Zawahiri had issued new guidelines for his cadres, specific do's and don'ts for jihad, which urged his fighters to leave alone non-Muslims living in Islamic lands, respect women and children, and to refrain from targeting enemies in mosques, markets and gatherings. But with the loosely organized network of cells and affiliate organizations, and with each of them operating independently, the Kenya terror attack has shown that the new Al-Qaeda chief may have little or no control over its affiliate organizations.
The events in Kenya are of particular interest to us in India, as a large number of Indians live and operate out of that country, and unfortunately a number of Indians were caught up in this latest terror attack in Nairobi. And to look at issues related to Kenya, terrorism and Africa, we have with us Mr. Ray Locker of USA Today, who is a keen observer of military intelligence and terrorist-related issues around the world. Mr. Locker, in Africa, Kenya has regularly faced terror attacks in the past decade or so. Why is that the case?
Well, part of it has to do with its neighbors. Somalia to the east has a long history of Islamic radicalism, primarily with al-Shabaab, and that spills over into Kenya. Also, we saw with Osama bin Laden, and there were people who were working in Kenya as well as neighboring Tanzania in 1998. And all that just has to do with the neighborhood Kenya's in.
Could we say that terror groups that are inspired by Al-Qaeda, such as the Al-Shabaab, which is now seeming to become quite popular and powerful in Africa, or the Lashkar-e-Toiba that operates out of Pakistan, have become bigger and more powerful than the Al-Qaeda itself? And is the United States expected to focus on them and not just on the Al-Qaeda in future?
Well, I think you do see a U.S. focus on groups like al-Shabaab and Lashkar-e-Taiba. It's not necessarily as high profile as with al-Qaeda. Certainly no one is doing as big of a manhunt for people at al-Shabaab like they did for Osama bin Laden, but that activity is constant. We've seen a greater involvement in U.S. Special Forces troops throughout Africa doing various anti-terrorism activities. They've used Special Forces C-130 gunships to attack targets in Somalia. So that activity is ongoing and obviously probably heightened now that in the aftermath of the Nairobi attack.
There is a view among some observers that the recent attack in Nairobi seemed to have a lot of similarity with the 26/11 attacks on Mumbai. Or is it just that large public places will continue to be easy target for terrorists across the world?
Well, I think any public place like the Westgate Mall is an easier target, but when I first saw the footage from Nairobi, I immediately thought of the Mumbai attacks for precisely that reason. They were attacking a soft target, some place where people would go and not expecting to be the victims of terrorism, a high-end shopping mall in Nairobi, luxury hotels in Mumbai. People go there not expecting to be attacked by terrorists, and I think given the relative success of what happened in Nairobi would probably make it more likely we'll see that in the future in other places.
Well, thank you, Mr. Locker. It's quite clear that groups like Al-Shabaab and various others inspired by Al-Qaeda are now perhaps much more lethal and more dangerous than the Al-Qaeda itself. And equally importantly, a lesson from Nairobi once again is that public places will always be easy terrorist targets. That's all in this episode of Latitude. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, goodbye.